Hello guys, and welcome to the first installment of My First Pet Reptile. I'm excited to bring this episode to you, and I'm excited to take you through this journey. And later on you'll see my intro. I'll do a small little bio on myself, but other than that, I'm going to take you through the top things that I think that you should know before becoming a reptile breeder. The reason I put this episode together, started with this one, is I read an article about this lady who became a breeder, and she wanted to take her hobby into like a breeding hobby, but I think the way she made it sound was that she spent all this money and she couldn't make as much money as she thought she would, and then she had some fallbacks, and that, to me, was the wrong reason to get into the reptile business. To me, you have to love what you do. And that's why I decided to start the channel, because I want to take you through the fallbacks that I go through and the things that happen, and we'll go from there. And it's not easy. It's not for everyone. But today, I'll explain to you each section, what I think is important. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to email me, and I'll have the contact info at the end. So let's go see some reptiles. Alright, hello guys. Well, welcome to my little piece of heaven. This is my reptile room. I just built this room just for the reptiles, so it's a little bit of a mess. And I'm kind of glad that it's a little bit of a mess, so you guys see what you have to go through, the things. So I still have cardboard because they got new cages, and that brings it to my first point. The first thing you need to consider is time. Time that you're going to spend feeding them, watering them, that kind of thing. This is Ricardo over here. This is my Panther Chameleon that I got from FC Exotics. You check them out. He has some really cool stuff. And this is Lucy. Eventually, this is a project that I kind of want to get into, but it's not my main passion. I love geckos, and you'll see different types of geckos throughout the show and throughout the seasons that I'm going to take you through, hopefully, this project. But first thing you have to consider is the time that you're going to spend feeding them. Yesterday, I spent 5 hours cleaning the bins, feeding them, taking care of eggs, taking care of hatchlings. I had a Leopard Gecko escape. I'm not sure how he escaped, but he escaped. And I had the time for that. So I had to go through everything, get everything done. And that's the main thing that you have to consider about time. The second thing you have to consider is, if you're going to think of getting money, and which I'll address in a different point, you have to think about when your pet's going to mature. So, a chameleon, a year, he's ready to go. They'll be ready to breed in a year, and then you'll get your investment in another year after that. So everything's going to run around your 2-year mark. So you buy an animal, or unless you're buying full-grown animals, you're going to build your business in a 2-year mark. So you're not going to see a return on that until you sell them until then. Chameleons are a little bit more sought after, so you make more money, and they also have bigger clutches. Geckos, not so much. I personally love Crested Geckos, and I'm never going to go away from not breeding them because they're my passion. That's what they got me into reptile business. So I'm always going to breed reptiles, Crested Geckos. But they're not that. There's a lot of reptile breeders that breed Crested Geckos, and there's not that much money into them, and they're really hard to sell nowadays, even though they're very popular. So it's a way of, you have to think about the time that you're going to put in to cleaning, and timing on when's that animal going to become mature and make your investment. I have leeches, but I bought babies because they're expensive, so it's going to take 3 to 4 years before I see an investment return on that. So you consider your time. Also consider that you're not going to go away on vacation like you have to. It's hard to have someone have a collection my size, which I don't have that many animals. I run 50 or 60 animals, but it's hard to go away and have someone take care of them. So it's hard. Luckily, I have a buddy of mine that breeds animals. I take care of his. He takes care of mine. So we're really good working together. But if we didn't have each other, then we're out of luck. We're not going on vacation more than 3 days. So things to consider is time. time you're going to put into your animals, cleaning and doing everything, time into feeding. Alright, next to the next topic.
Alright, hello guys, and this is Clifford. You'll see a lot of him. He's probably my favorite Crested Gecko. He's bicolor, red. Some people say it's nothing special, but he's my favorite. I had him since he was a hatchling. I got him from Liberty Reptiles, based here in Philadelphia, which I love. But it brings him to my point. He's a great little guy, very chill, doesn't really go anywhere. But we're going to talk about money. People say it should be number one. I say it should be number two. The point of the article was that she spent all this money on cages and so on. So one thing that you should consider is you're going to spend a lot of money. Your initial investment is going to be in the thousands if you want to make money. Mine's in the thousands probably just because I love buying different reptiles. I just love these little guys. I like to have a different ones. I have a reg project, I have a pinstripe project. These guys are my favorite. Are they going to make you that much money? No. I got them as a hatchling. So one thing you should consider if you want to start a business and don't have that much money, buy hatchlings. Hatchlings are cheap and you don't see their potential until later. Like this guy, it's really cute red. He never fires up, so normally. So he actually gets darker than this. I just woke him up, so he's a little cranky. But think of money. You're going to spend a lot of money on the cages. I spent so much money on bins. I got my bin money alone is a lot. But that's because I like to keep geckos, and that's what I like. If you don't like it, sometimes you can make an initial investment on like chameleons. You can buy the cages. Don't make another investment. Like you don't have to. They last forever, and they make a lot more money. So also consider what you're going to breed. Crested geckos might not make you rich unless you're breeding them by the hundreds, and some people are, or even by the thousands. And those people, they make tons of money because they don't care how much they are, but they also don't care what they produce. They just care what sells. We have a problem now that we can't find green or dark crested geckos because people didn't want to breed them, and now we find them. Reds are a little bit more sought after, but they're still kind of rare when they come this solid color, or at least this main color. So, and then orange brindles are really rare because people didn't think that they were that valuable, so people stopped breeding them. So I have a hard time finding certain colors that I'm looking for because I like to keep them more cleaned up. So also remember that some things are going to cost you some money to get off the ground, and I'm being pretty good with these guys. They make me money to do it and so on. But another thing you should consider that these are pretty easy to maintain. They eat fruits, powder mix. If you don't want to feed them bugs, you don't have to. So that's a good plus. So that's why I like Crested Geckos. I also keep Leopard Geckos, and they eat a lot of bugs. And crickets are expensive nowadays. You're going to spend a lot of money on crickets. That's going to be your main staple. Now, if you're going to start breeding, or even mealworms, that's why people are trying to do the mealworms. But fat tails don't like to eat mealworms, so you get a hard time, getting them acclimated to mealworms, and they'll stop eating. They won't eat for like 4 or 5 months. I have a hard time sometimes trying to switch my fat tails to that. Some of them are great eaters and they'll eat everything. Some not. But things that you should consider. These guys don't need a heat lamp. Leopard geckos do. You're going to spend a lot of money on equipment. But it is what it is. I love doing it, so I don't mind it. And it's not my main income. So I do it. But just remember that. Also remember, you're going to need a license if you're going to breed and show at shows. And it's considered a hobby still. But I think it's a business because I like it. I make some money. I make some kids happy. Kids really love Crested Geckos, and most of my sales are parents for their kids. It gets me excited that they get their little first reptile from me. And also consider that, things that you're going to buy and you're going to get money in return. Chameleons are going to make me a lot more money. So if that's what you want to into, then that's what you want to get. If you're interested in the money in the long run, one chameleon can make you about 10 grand because they ate 15, 30 clutches. I mean, eggs per clutch. A Crested Gecko is going to lay like anywhere from 6 to 8 eggs. That's alright where I like to keep them. More than 6 eggs, I don't like to stress them out. And then remember, the first year you're going to buy your animals, you're not going to make that much money. The second year, you're going to start seeing some investment. And on the third year is when you start seeing actually a little bit of a profit. But if you're getting into this because you're going to make a lot of money, you're going to run profession, buddy. Unless you breed something like snakes or something like that. But it also depends on the snake. I like hug noses. Hug nose only go from $50 to $100 for hatchlings. But I'm pretty happy with it, so I like them. So, thing number 2 is consider money. Say goodbye, Clifford.
Well, the third thing I want to talk about is, actually before I get to talk to that, meet this little guy who's actually a big guy. He is the biggest leopard gecko that I own. His name is Rex. He's a temper albino. He's getting a little bit older, but you can still see his pink. He's actually a decent size. I try not to overfeed him because a lot of people overfeed these guys. But he's doing pretty well. He's actually the sire to most of my leopard geckos. I only have 2 males, and one of them is with a bell albino, which he can breed to. So we do this. So right now, so when it comes to that term, is thinking what to breed is number 3. One thing you have to do is be passionate about it. I'm very passionate about geckos, all types of geckos. So I'm definitely going to be breeding geckos. I do have chameleons, not just a few, just because I like them. But I'm not gonna. It's not my main passion. I love all reptiles. Don't get me wrong, but these little guys, crested geckos, are my passion, and I have to be passionate about the animals. If not, why work with them? If I don't like them, then what's the point? You can say leopard geckos I love them because they're chilled, but I had a hard time breeding them at first. Sometimes the eggs weren't incubating correctly. I didn't have the right equipment, so it took a while to get to. And that's the number 1 part of this. Number 3 is have a passion for the animals that you like. A friend of mine loves chameleons. Don't get me wrong, he gets a lot of animals, but his passion is in chameleons, which he got me more into what I am today because I didn't know what I was going to do, what I was going to breed, if this was something I should consider, and he helped me out, and I appreciate him. And I got him because someone couldn't keep them. They were moving, and I bought most of the leopard geckos I own from this guy. And I'm doing okay with them, not as good as I could be. But the people don't breed that many leopard geckos, so there's not that much money into them. He, of course, he's a different. I want to specialize in making bigger leopard geckos and albinos, so I kind of specialize more in that and max nose. But there's not that much money into it. So going into the second part of this is when you're considering an animal to breed, consider the money that you're gonna buy into the animal. Buy better stock. This little guy, or big guy, I guess I should say, if you were gonna sell them at this after a year, they run about $300 to $500 for a temper albino with a giant gene. Runs right about that kind of money. So you're gonna get your investment. Now, when you're breeding into the animal, you got to breed another one to a het temper albino to be able to get another albino. So every other year you're going to get something like that, depending what you're breeding into. So that's something to consider. So buy quality stock that you're going to get some money out of it. Now, a prime example is black and green crested geckos are great, but they're hard to find. They're more money into it, so they're harder to buy, and they used to be considered not as good because everybody kind of bred those colors, and now they're hard to find. So go with the trends. Another part of this is, what do you see yourself in the long run? What kind of animals you want to breed? Consider what animals are going to be your passion that you're going to breed into. If you know you can't go on a large scale and breed, 1,000, leopard geckos because it takes a long time, specialize in one item, and then see how long it's going to take you to breed into the line. So like for me, temporary albinos, I have to breed them back into the line to be able to get some. My project is going to take 2 to 3 years. Just like my fat tail project, which you'll see a little later. It's going to take me a few years to get it off the ground, so it's going to take a while. So consider what you're going to get into. If you like chameleons and you're just looking for the big bucks, chameleons will get you a good amount of money because you're making so much money out of a clutch of 30 eggs, and they're really sought after right now. And they're still pricey, pretty pricey. Like one, a hatch is going to cost you anywhere from $2 to $250, and adults, which will reach in a year, will fetch anywhere from $400 to $500. I see my pet go for $500. So they go for a good amount of money. So that's another thing you should consider yourself, what you see in the future and what line you're going to breed into and what do you want to be known for. I like to be known for little docile geckos that kids can handle and adults still enjoy. So that's what I'm really going to go. So remember, that's number 3 is look where you want to take your business in the long run and what you want to breed in the long run. Alright, back to step number 4. Alright guys, meet Tiger Lily. She's going to help me introduce point number 4, which is research. One thing that you should consider is the research that you need to do to make sure that you keep your animal healthy. Research the trends and research how you're going to be able to breed in a mass scale and a smaller scale, and I'll go that into more details. But the first one is, of course, research. That's why I have Tiger Lily out. She does really well. She actually eats different types of bugs, which I love. She's actually a greedy. She might be a little chubby, or she might be gravid, one of the two. I did pair her this year. She was slightly underweight, maybe like 2 grams, so I figured I might as well breed her anyway, see if she breeds. If she doesn't, she doesn't. I'm not too concerned about it. She eats really well. She eats everything I put in front of her, which is nice. But one thing I didn't know about fat-tailed geckos is that they are picky eaters. Sometimes they only eat something that'll move, so they won't eat mealworms. It's really hard to get them into mealworms. Even she'll eat superworms, but not mealworms. So if I didn't do my research, I would have known that. Another thing that I found out just through breeding alone is that they do better in groups. Believe it or not, this is rare. Sometimes they won't eat if they're by themselves. They do like to have attention, even if it's just from another human being, not just another gecko. So they tend to stop eating when they're disturbed and stuff like that. If I didn't do my research, I wouldn't know. Checking forums and so on, and this is why I want to start this channel, is so you guys know a little bit more about those things. Now, some of them can be fine on their own. They do good, really well. They could be solitary and it would be a nice pet, but they do sometimes crave attention. They're very curious little animals. And now, for this girl, just a little backstory on this. A friend of mine, FC Exotics, which I'll talk a lot about him because I think he's an awesome guy. He helped me realize that this could be a passion I can get into. I always loved her. He got her last year, and I always wanted her. He always debated whether I should sell her or not, and he finally got out of geckos and went into chameleons, and I got her. But she's a caramel albino striped, and she has to be one of the most beautiful geckos I've ever seen. You'll see her right there, so close up. So I named her Tiger Lily, just because she's so pretty. But do your research, and sometimes something that's really popular today might not be popular tomorrow. Prime example, Pictus geckos, which I own. I had a hard time tracking them down because where they're from, they closed down, so they don't import them anymore. And not that I like to get wild caught, I like to get captive bred, but I couldn't even find captive bred. And then I hunted down a bunch of them. So you see 1 or 2 there. Now you're starting to see them now at Petco's and so on. But they used to be really hard to get, and they still are. And they're now becoming a bigger trend, even though they're easy little tiny gecko. They have the same care as fat tails.
and leopard geckos, and they just stay maybe a quarter of the size. So they're a great apartment pet. Don't need much. Few crickets there and there. They're the perfect pet, but they're hard to find because they don't come in that many colors like fat-tailed geckos. Again, fat-tailed geckos only came in normals, and now that they come in different colors, people love them and they're up and at them. But another thing that I found out through research is that you can't mass produce these like you do leopard geckos. They're slower breeders. They don't breed as much, and then definitely need an extra year to really breed better. 1 year they're fully mature, they can still breed, but they do better on their second year. So that's why a lot of people don't mass produce them, because they're a little harder to mass produce. Not like leopard geckos, are up in a year and you get like 6 or 8 clutches, and they're great to mass produce. But this is great for the hobbyists like us, where we only want to breed a few of them just to join the hobby and, you know, feed into it. So do your research. Know what you're getting into, know the trends, and then stick with it. Crested geckos are now, everybody's breeding them, but because there's not that much money into it, you'll notice like there's going to be a big drop. And I know a lot of people that sell their whole collections because they don't want to they can't make as much money. So stick with it, see how the next few years go, because I guarantee you that only the mass producers will be out there of crested geckos, and then what will happen is people will search out the smaller breeders so they can go out and get something specialty, like a special color, special morph, and so on. Alright, so say goodbye to Tiger Lily, and I'll get you to our 5-point and our last point of the night. This is sorry, hit my Apple Watch. But hello guys, and I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, let me introduce this guy first. So, meet Valentine's, guys. He's actually pretty chill. I think I woke him up and he wants to be up and at him. But this is Valentine. I got him for, of course, his name is Valentine because he's red striped Gargoyle Gecko from New Caledonia. And the reason I call him Valentine is because I actually got him on Valentine's Day. A partner got him for me, which is awesome. I always say finding someone to love you is easy. Finding someone to love you for your reptile obsessions, and that's just hard. It's just, you know, I wish that people were more accommodating for that, but it's funny. You can tell someone your darkest secret and they're like, oh, we'll love you either way. But tell someone you're into reptiles and they're like, no, not reptiles. You're one of those people? Yeah, I'm one of those people. But now that I got you a brief history on this little guy, I'm going to get to number 5. And number 5 is, what do you get out of it? You know, when I started this blog today, my main point was, this lady went in and she was so upset that she spent all this money, and it really sounded kind of negative, because she's like, oh, after 2 years, not sure what I got out of it. I've been on it for breeding on the scale that I am now, like over that time that she said, over 2 years. I bred for a long time, but it's only been a pet there and there. But now that I'm on this scale and trying to make this a passion, I know what I want to get out of it. I want to make a living just with these geckos, and try to build my business, and maybe eventually have a shop with one of my friends and kind of do that. But I love watching these little guys hatch. They're so awesome. I love when they're like little babies like this. He's in his awkward teenage phase. They go through this little puberty strength, but they become kind of like jerks. But I love it because it's just like you raising a kid, and they, you know, never been bit by one of these guys. I've been bit by crested geckos, but not by one of these guys. And they love to climb, and they love to have fun, and kids love it. I love to see the expression on the kid's face, and he's there somewhere. But the main thing to figure out is, what do you get out of it? And what do you want to do in the future when you get out of it? Meaning, like, do you want to quit your job? Do you want to keep this as a hobby? Are you passionate about your animals? What do you personally gonna get out of breeding these guys? I know what I get out of it. Like, I love the hatchlings, are my favorite part. And I wish I could keep all the hatchlings, and I can't.
And then when I go to shows, I love the reptile shows. I'm so passionate about it. I see kids getting their first reptiles, and I'm like a little kid trying to find different morphs, different things that I'm looking for. I'm growing my lychee project. I want to own every type, different morph of crested geckos. So there's a bunch that I still don't have. I have male, crested gecko Dalmatians, but I don't have any females, which is they're harder to find, believe it or not, in Dalmatians. Some Dalmatians just tend to breed male heavy, and I love just how each care is different. I love reading about them, so I get passionate about it. And now I'm taking that passion to you guys and be able to bring you easier care. One thing I find about reptiles is that there's not much out there. There's not that many books. There's not that much stuff out there. In today's media, you find a little bit of things there, but you don't find a lot. For the longest time, I didn't know what the adult size for Pictus geckos was, and neither did my friends, because we never actually seen one in adult size. We've seen the little ones, and they're harder to find. So, but people that don't know what that is Madagascar ground gecko, and then they're my new obsession because they're so cute and little and adorable, and I love learning about different things. But there's a lot out there that we don't know about the reptiles. There's an untapped potential, and I feel like it's gonna be the next up and coming. Is the next pet that is easy because everybody's moving. Frankly, not that I recommend it, but you can leave for a few days, and some reptiles will be fine not eating for a couple of days. I know leopard gecko breeders that leave away for 6 weeks because their leopard geckos are in brumation, so they can take some type of vacation time. So I seen so much out of it. I love everything about it. So the fifth thing, and there's plenty more, but these are my top 5. It's what do you get out of it? Well, what I get out of it is these little guys are so cute and adorable, and that's what I get out of it. So ask yourself, before you start breeding, what are you going to get out of it? Alright guys, well that concludes our day. Make sure that you subscribe to the new channel. I'm going to post the channel every first Thursday of the month. Is going to be a new episode. I'm going to bring in some product reviews. I'm going to do that twice a month. Those are going to be bonus videos. And once I get enough subscribers, I'm going to go live every week. But look forward to all the stuff that I'll personally use. I'll recommend. If I don't use it and I don't like it, I'm going to tell you the truth because no one's paying me to do this. I'm doing this out of my own kindness so you guys can get simple things. So check me out on Instagram at myfirstpetreptile.com. Check me out on Facebook at the same website. Check out my website, myfirstpetreptile.com. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied. And check me out on Twitter and everything. I have all social medias. The links are going to be down below. Feel free to send me questions. I have available geckos. I will be at shows. So this week, a couple weeks, I'm going to be white stag selling these little guys. So come check me out and make sure you subscribe, you like everything, because that's how we do it. And then I'm going to leave you with this. Do what you love, because if you don't do what you love, what really is the point of it? Alright, catch you guys later.